the one from 2 weeks ago until today. And we may, depending on how the rest of the summer goes, we may have to make some adjustments again. But thank you again for taking the time to be able to participate on the call today. And looks like we got a few items to review once we get down to the ticket items. And I know, John, I added one more that I had nominated. So without further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. I guess we could probably jump to Ken, right, John?
Yes, absolutely. Let's turn it over to Ken.
All right, so let's see. Do you want to give me the power to?
Sure, I will change presenters.
Thank you.
And you should now see, there we go.
All right, perfect. Okay, so I have an action to go through the status of the tickets. I'm just coming back from leave, so I had time to go through the issues with impact score of 9, 8, and I'm halfway through the 7. So I'll run through those, and it'll take a little bit of time to give you updates on each of those. And then what I'll do is at the next meeting, I'll run through the remaining, the 6s and 5s, and then there's 1 4. And then hopefully we'll have an update on some of these that were higher ranked too at that point, because I think we should be able to complete some of these. So I'll go ahead and start off. So you guys are seeing this Google sheet that I've put together. I just did an export, and then I've been making notes. So the first one here is 39,652. Make a searchable users guide. We have a task right now that Steve Smith had asked Tom Filiaggi, one of the other team members, to go through search within VLab and make make a note of all the issues. We know that the user's guide, making that searchable, is one of the things that we plan on doing. So we've got a meeting later this week to discuss this further, and I should have more of an update on, I anticipate that we'll be implementing our findings over the next month, and we've got another person coming on board, and you'll see that as a theme here as well for some of these tickets, who has a very good skill set with regard to look and feel, and also does Java development too. So she'll be helping out with some of these tickets. So at the moment, I've tried to use a color code here. Yellow implies that it's being worked. Green are things that are almost done or done. And then red are things that are on hold at the moment because they're, we've run into some problems, or we just don't have the resources at the moment to work on them. So that's where the searchable users guide set us on that. So like I said, we completely agree that needs to be done and have a way, and I think we should be able to do that with potentially with categories, and then provide maybe a search portlet that would allow you to just search over the user's guide. So we'll be discussing that further internally this week. The next one is the ideas marketplace improvement ideas, and on that one, we've got I've scheduled that out for Mike Giebler. Will be doing that work. He's the original developer for the ideas marketplace too, and some of in reviewing the requests there, many or several of them are fairly easy to do, like adding the categorization, adding guidance. Some of the other things, like having the capability to add polls to an idea, we'll have to see how best to implement something like that. So that's not quite as straightforward, but there is a capability within VLCS to add polls. So the question just would be is, is it just a matter of providing instructions to the user on, creating a poll and then linking to it? So we'll have to see what's envisioned there and work with Brian, since I think that idea came from Eastern Region. So I scheduled that, like I said, to be worked next month by the developer. So we should have an update at the next bit on that one. Okay. Improved search functionality. Again, this is related to the second one, 39, or the first one I talked about, 39.652. The searchable user guide is, one specific task. The improved search functionality has several different ideas within it. I've made some comments in the past, or I provided some feedback in the past. I know one of the things that was requested there was to be able to search over community content within communities that you aren't a member of. That kind of goes against the way that things are done within VLCS, and so we'll have to see. That might require more significant change if we want to do that. I could see potentially allowing for that for open communities. So in other words, if you did a search, you could perhaps turn on an option and then say, yeah, I want to search over everything, including communities that I'm not a member of. Because I think there is an advantage to being able to search over just the communities that you're a member of, because you've already expressed an interest in it. But then if you're doing more exploratory work, or you just want to know what's out there, then I agree that doing a search over open communities would make sense. Restricted and private communities would be out of the question, because by their nature, they're more protected. So again, we're meeting later this week, and we'll be talking about these specific requests as part of that. Okay, so the next one here, 30, and if there are any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to interrupt me. So the next 38.315 is VLab landing page should serve as more of a navigational aid. And so this is actually the first task that we're assigning to this new developer, and she's beginning July 9th. So we already have ideas, and some of the ideas within this particular ticket will come into play, and so be looking for updates. I anticipate that we should be able to implement that within a week or two of her starting. So that's that one there. Deploy the Easy Redmine plugin. We actually purchased that. It wasn't very expensive, but we purchased it. And then after purchasing it, we got the list of dependencies, and unfortunately, the way in which that whole process worked, it didn't go as smoothly as we would have expected, and so we're running into some dependencies issues with the mind map plugin, and so it's been a lower priority. There's, to be honest, only been 1 or 2 users that have requested this functionality, so it's not that a large group of people is wanting it. I think more people would find the plugin useful, and it wasn't very expensive, so it made sense to move forward. But now that we're running into these problems, we need to evaluate whether it makes sense to still deploy the plugin, given the dependencies that the organization that built this plugin has put in place. I think I'll leave it at that right now, but that's on hold at the moment until I can spend some more energy to see if I can work with the company that developed it to clean up their dependencies, or see if we want to move forward, because basically they have many more dependencies than they need, and so it's potentially a maintenance issue if we were to move forward with it. Okay, so 9622 is dynamic data list, sort, filter, organize. That work was initially done pre-DXP. It needs to be re-implemented within DXP. The work that we did pre-DXP was never deployed because it still had a couple issues. So I've scheduled this work to follow on the other work that was done next month. This is Mike Giebler's, the person that would be slated to do this. And so I'm hoping that by the end of July, this should be put in place. I don't think it'll be too difficult to develop, and it may be we might be able to roll it out sooner. So that's there. The personal pages, we're moving forward with that. Mike Giebler, the person I just spoke with, the developer, he's working on right now my Redmine issues portlet, and that shows all the issues that are currently assigned to you, and that portlet would be on the Lifer personal page. So once we have that done, and he thought he should have that done in the next couple of days, I'll work to get that default layout defined for personal pages, and we should be able to roll that out pretty quickly. So I would expect by our next VET meeting that we should have that personal pages in place. Okay, preview as users, the owner setting. This is something that there's been a need for a while now, and that is that owners of communities want to be able to see things as a regular user, not as the owner, so that you would see the permissions and issues and things like that. So that one, I'm looking at potentially having our new developer work it, or perhaps assign it to one of the other senior developers, Jason Burks. So I need to follow up with him later today, see if he has the bandwidth to do that now, because that's something that I think would be advantageous for a lot of users. And this is so that when you come in to VLab, let me go ahead and refresh, you notice like here there's this toggle controls. This shows things so you don't see the edit and other features, but what this will actually do will provide, not just turn that off, but also see it as a regular user would see it. So we're thinking of potentially having another icon or something like that. It would only be available to those users that have permission, so like the owners or the administrators within a community. And again, what that would do is if you've got pages that are restricted to certain teams or to the administrators, you wouldn't see those pages, or you'd see the permission denied errors. So it's going to be a little bit of work, but I think it'll be advantageous. So let me go back. All right, add a field to identify communities by line office. So we have that identification now. That's part of the NOAA LDAP import that we're doing. And I see this as related to search and some of the other things that we're doing, but we need to follow through with this and add to the communities. So if I go to my communities, let me sign in. Okay. So there should be a way when you're looking at the communities here of actually, let me turn this off, of being able to filter these based upon the line office, and that's something that we haven't done yet. So that's work to be done, and let me see if what I put there with regard to the issue. So this is something where I think Tao, our new developer coming on next month, would be a good candidate to do this work as well. So, all right, Redmine would benefit from a library-like notification capability. This is like the chat type feature. We did deploy this capability out within our dev instance, and we need to do further testing. So you also notice this is Redmine. We've been playing or experimenting with different themes and things. That's why this looks so different, but you'll notice in the lower right here that there's this chat type capability. And so Tom Filiaggi's been doing some testing with this, and I'll follow up with him to see how that's going and see if it would be worthwhile to deploy it out to to production Redmine 2. I want to make sure that there aren't any performance impacts based upon it. So anyway, the other thing that I don't know how much it's going to be used. We found that with VLCS, the chat capability was hardly used at all. So I know it was ranked high, but I'm to be honest, I'm not sure, because we within NOAA, of course, have the Google Hangouts capability to be used. But so there is a plugin available. We've deployed it out to dev, and we need to do further testing to see if that, just to make sure that it's not going to cause any problems for us. Okay, that's that. Improvements to the My Communities VLab page. There were improvements to that as part of DXP. We were actually looking at some of this today within our internal VLab meeting. So the My Communities, you've got this portlet here with the available communities with search. There's also now, I know I've demonstrated this before, select a community, and you'll get your recent communities at the top here, and I think that's really helpful. Like as part of preparing for this meeting, I went out to the VLab improvement team, so you can see it's towards the top of this list. So this list here, you can then go to My Communities and do a search from within here to get to all your communities and things. Now, there is a bug for normal users. This is nicely alphabetized. I've reproduced that bug with the Liferay software, reported an issue to them, and I believe, well, I was out last week, but I believe on Friday they've released a hot fix, and I think it may address this issue. So we'll be testing out this in terms of making sure that normal users get alphabetized lists for this selected community. So what I put within this status is we need to reevaluate, to revisit the suggestions to see if they've been addressed, and we may need to come back to the vet and see if, given the status of where things are today, if we've addressed this issue, or if we still need to, do more development. So that's where that is. Okay, developing a portlet that shows all the issues reported by you. As I mentioned, Mike Giebler has developed a portlet that shows all issues that are assigned to you. I was just texting with him, and I think it shouldn't be difficult to have this other portlet it's just a different query. So rather than showing those that are assigned to you, it would show those that have been reported by you. And if you go out to the Redmine site and go to your personal pages, that's one of the views there as well. So if you go in and go to my page, you'll see reported issues. And so that's having a portlet that displays that and then allows you to go into Redmine directly from there. Makes sense, and that shouldn't be difficult. So I'm hoping that Mike can do that as part of the work he's doing right now. And we could put that on the personal page within VLCS. So, okay. And that's where I got for right now. So I will continue reviewing the rest of the issues next time, unless there's some particular issue that someone is very interested in, and I can address it right now. So, any questions for me or comments?
Just thinking, Ken, while you're presenting this, this is a good way to view the information. Is there a similar way in our Redmine that we could see something like this?
So I thought about that too. The thing, so I had the view. Let me go back. So that's effectively what I did here. Was I, just did a search for those that are endorsed, and then I exported that at the bottom. I was using a Google Sheet as an easy way to do an update. So what I'll do is I'll put my comments within each of those issues. I don't know, the one thing, basically I was displaying this in combination with the last update. I don't know if that's available, so I don't think it is.
I think this might have been somewhat similar to some of the stuff Todd was asking for, that you could have like a comment section.
Right.
Displayed.
I think it is too, actually. So, so I don't, right, so right here you don't have a way of displaying like the last comments or something like that, and that's effectively what's desired here. So, if we implement that other feature, we'll be able to do it all within here directly, and that would be a good thing. But so, okay, anything else? Okay. So it's back to you guys.
Alrighty. I'm going to make me the presenter and show everybody our agenda again. And we see that Steve Smith with the VLab Director's Update will be next on the agenda. Steve, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. A couple things to mention, I guess. Number one is we're joining up with NCEP's Environmental Modeling Center on Thursday for a joint briefing and demo for the Weather Service Director, Dr. Louis Cellini, on the FV3 GFS community. This is a big modeling effort that's tied to the so-called unified modeling effort in NOAA. The EMC has been using VLab, both the collaboration side, the LifeRay, and the Redmine, to support this project. Kate Friedman gave us a demo of this at the owners meeting a while back, and it was quite impressive. So Dr. Uccellini is always interested in success stories from the VLab, so we decided to team up with EMC to kind of give him a overview of this effort as it relates to VLab and a demo of the community. And so the important thing to mention, I think, about this effort is it is the sort of what EMC is doing here is exercising the paradigm, a new paradigm of using GitHub.com. So some of you may recall that last year-ish, NOAA CIO finally signed a memo which authorized NOAA users to use GitHub.com under certain conditions. I guess maybe the most important condition of that was that they needed to, if people put software repositories up on GitHub.com, that they also have so-called gold standard copies on a government system behind a firewall. And with that being met, VLab is an example of a repository stored in VLab meet that criteria. So the important thing to note for this is that this modeling effort depends on non-NOAA users in universities and research labs doing software development and outside of NOAA's domains, and therefore the use of GitHub is really critical for the success of that project. So this is really the first big effort we know to basically make this a business model for a R&D project, engaging the, often called the weather enterprise, private sector as well as government sector, working on the same sort of common goals. And so anyway, this is quite groundbreaking, and EMC has really been aggressive and assertive in making this happen. And so we're looking forward to informing the Weather Service Director about this, and I think it's a big success story all around, not just from the VLab perspective, but from a Weather Service and NOAA perspective. This is a NOAA project. There are other, the FE3 itself is a product of the GFDL laboratory, which is in OAR. So that's something I think we should all be proud of, and the EMC is using in the community a lot of, the DXP to lots of stuff on there. You get a chance, go to the FE3 GFS community, you can poke around and you can see how they're doing it in the intended ways. I mean, as we have talked over and over and over again for years now, to store, have training information available, corporate knowledge, wiki pages, forums, et cetera, to support these R&D transition projects, whatever you want to call them, and allowing, multiple users from different organizations in different geographical locations to work together on these types of collaborative projects. So it really sort of is a poster child of sorts for what we wanted to have. The other mention I wanted to make was that probably last time I was on this call, I was plugging the NRAP position for VLab Outreach Director that we had advertised. And the good news is we had one highly qualified candidate, our own Todd Neeson, who is the NOS rep on the VIT. And he applied and he's been selected. And so we're going to be bringing Todd on board in the month of July, working out in that NRAP capacity. And it's just really great. I'm very impressed by Todd's background and his enthusiasm, and really looking forward to his participation and bringing stuff to the table that to help inform the outreach and other efforts that we have in the VLab. And on another note, I will just say that I continue to make contact with Bill Ward on the strategic VLab effort. Bill's been out on travel and dealing with volcanoes, that sort of thing. So he's been hard to get in touch with, but I've been told that it's just to keep trying, and with that I am. So that's my update on that particular thing that I know you're all hanging on tenterhooks over, strategically speaking. So that's all I got. Any questions?
Steve, what about the VLab and operational nature, and any update on that?
So the only thing, well, the answer is not really. We still there's still agreement that the VLab should be hosted at the Boulder site as well as the College Park site. However, we're not going there. We're not going to be standing up that in the next 12 to 18 months due to the backlog of other things that are of higher importance to NOAA operations going there first. So the issue there, as you're well aware, Brian, is that if College Park goes down, the data center, as they call it, there are still, besides VLab, there are other important applications that's a single point of failure, and so some of those are operational, quasi-operational. So they are on the shorter fuse to move to Boulder first, and we're behind those. So there, I guess the good news is there's complete agreement that we need to get to Boulder. The bad news is it's not anytime soon. The good news, sort of, knock on wood, is College Park's been pretty stable for the last few weeks, and hopefully that'll continue.
This is Ken. I've got one update related to this as well, and that is we have been working with NCO to make sure that the VLab services and VMs that they run within are being monitored by they call it, it's the software is called Big Brother, and so we've been working with Virginia Galvin, one of the NCO personnel over there, to get that set up, and that's been up for review for I'm hoping that that was potentially approved this past week. So that'll be a good thing, because that's used by NCO and their monitoring group to keep tabs on the resources. And sometimes in the past, because we were being monitored through a different system, it wasn't really it's not going to change the fact that we're not 24/7, but what it will do is it will highlight and make the people that are monitoring these services 24/7 aware of issues, and then it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily go and fix it right then and there, but the first step in all of this is being aware of issues, and then and we've got guidance in there to notify us 24/7 so that we can take steps if necessary. So I think that should help.
Great, thanks.
All right, so that's all from the director's corner, I guess. David.
Oh.
So Bill Ward just joined us, and in so doing, he was creating a bit of a feedback. So I've put him on mute for the time being. But if we would like to talk with him, or if he would like to raise his hand and let us know that he'd like to talk with us, or maybe just send an email through the chat, perhaps, we can sort of unmute him. Okay.
Okay, hear me?
Is that Bill?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I for some reason the audio came on with the GoToMeeting while I had the phone on, so I apologize for that. I didn't get a chance to hit the mute button quickly enough.
Not a problem. Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wear so dang many hats that, just trying to jump from call to call and everything else makes it a little bit rough sometimes.
No problem. So, having just finished up Steve's talk, I think we're now prepared to move on to discuss a number of candidate issues. And just to let everyone know, of course, the idea behind this is that a VET member has basically received some suggestion, and they've reviewed the particular suggestion, and now they feel it's ready for consideration by the entire group, during which we can hear a little bit about the topic, make a decision whether we think it's worthy of being endorsed by the VIT, and then if so, we would proceed to rank it following that step. So the first one is one that has been brought to my attention, and I will mention this, that these issues that I will be talking about are ones that have been submitted to the VLST and we're now routing them back through the VIT for VIT input. So the first one, and I have the Redmine ticket, so if you want to follow along on your own version of Redmine, you're welcome to do so. This first one deals with something we call an accordion. And you can think of this as you've got a bunch of, web content. It's sitting out there in folders, and you just want a convenient way for people to sort of access that web content through the various folders that you've got set up. All right, in fact, we can quickly take a look at one of those. I'll show you. So here's the accordion itself, and then here's where it's going to display the web content. And then you can see that you can click on the each level, or the top level, we'll call it the folder level. And then these are the pieces of web content, which if you clicked on, they would display over on the right side. So that's what the accordion is used for. And then if we look at the suggestion, it is that, oops, let me go back one more. That in this case, you're really restricted to just that folder and then content level. But in the real world, oftentimes we want to create sort of a hierarchical structure where we've got sort of a number of folders, and then the web content would be down a couple levels. And so this suggestion is has asked for the capability sort of to loop through the structure, and then you would have these multiple levels of being able to click through the folders. So is that fairly clear? And does anyone have any questions? Okay, so I assume I did a decent job of explaining it. Is this something that we would like to endorse as the VIT?
Yeah, I'll endorse it. It's Brian.
All right.
And I would maybe actually also put a note in that I think that kind of may relate to some of the wiki structure as well, the improvements that have been suggested for wiki.
Alrighty, we shall take a look at that. So that's 51682. And just to make sure we have a chance, would anyone object to endorsing this? Do we have any dissent? Okay, then we'll consider that one endorsed. On a very much related theme, thinking back to that accordion again, in addition to not being able to go down multiple levels, you're restricted to having alphabetized folders. So in other words, when we looked at the accordion, you may have noticed, and we'll quickly go back just to show you, that this list is based on it's been alphabetized. So numbers come first, followed by then the alphabetical listing. And maybe that doesn't always suit the user's desire. They may want to have a more, different order than alphabetized or alphabetical. And so this particular suggestion is asking for it, for you to be able to customize the order. So are there any questions about this particular suggestion?
Suggest combining the two.
We could do that. Would that be your preference, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. I will combine these two. And in that case, I think it's clear that they're both endorsed. All right. And then the final new suggestion that I have to bring to the team is the, so we have, and this is a topic that has already come up in our meeting, as I recall. So we have that great and very useful list of communities. We call it the My Communities portlet. And an individual, let's see, I'm trying to think of what his name was. Did I not write it down in here? Oh, yes. Robert Grumbine had suggested that there were a number of improvements that could, still could be made to the My Communities portlet. And so we've listed them out. Some of them I think are a little, may duplicate other suggestions, but here's what he had proposed, that you would be able to basically sort the list of communities based on the number of members in the community. And his particular use case involved being able to have the smallest one, smallest ones. In other words, his vision was that he would be most interested in the ones where there were fewer people. And so that would be like the default setting. So you'd have your list of communities, and then you could sort them based on the number of people who were members of the community. Perhaps one that we've talked about, I think, in the past is also the owner versus non-owner. So we're all members of communities, but some communities were actually the owners of those. And he wanted to be able to see his the ones that he owned, at the top, so that he could give them the special attention that he felt they needed. And then the final idea that he had, and I think this was the one he was probably most interested in, was to have an ordered list. So currently it's, I think it's, well, in theory it should be alphabetized, but he was hoping that he could just kind of, select a particular community and put it at the top, and then by doing that, create some customized order for the communities that would meet his needs for, having access to them quickly and easily. So does anyone have any questions on that fairly involved description?
So John, I wonder if the order...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wonder if the order visited, if the site selector now with that capability being there already, if that might address the need.
Right. You mean the most recent?
Correct.
Right. That is one of them. Correct. In other words,
I know these number 1 and 2 are not
right.
addressed, but 3, I would say that functionality is already there now.
Right. Let me show you the idea. So here's the My Communities. Let's see, which in my case, let me rewind here. Oops, and it's closed coming up. Okay, so we have this sort by column here. And at first blush, you would think, oh, this is great, man. There's going to be all kinds of cool ways of sorting this. But unfortunately, when you look at it, there's only by name. And so, he was thinking, well, geez, wouldn't it be nice if we could stick these other things in there? And so while you're right, Ken, that there is this My Communities, most recently accessed one available through the Compass, we'll call it, or the site selector, he was thinking that, yeah, that's true, but it sure would be nice if it was also part of the options available right here in the My Community portal.
Okay, that's fair enough. So yeah. if we're making changes for the others, then I wouldn't think that that'd be difficult to do. So
right. And
well, Bill, and I got just a little bit of a differing opinion here that I think may even help, because I find myself sometimes getting lost trying to find something or even get into something, and then once you do, you still got to ask permission to get in there, which, I mean, I understand that for the most part, but I'm just wondering, under the available communities, if there would be a way that we could do things by theme a little bit better. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's the one. I'm not sure if you were on the call when I was going through the status of tickets. One of the open vid issues wants to be able to display these, be able to filter or search by the line office. And so when you're in the available communities, that would be something that we're looking at doing. And then we've also talked about adding additional filters based upon categories, like topical type categories. So you can definitely search over if people tag or categorize the communities, you can search it, but I think that you should have ways of being able to filter it that way as well. So
no, that'd be great, because I find myself getting lost in there, and I know that I've heard from folks that that's just a big turnoff to this, because you don't want to be chasing through things and then 2 or 3 are kind of similar, so you start trying to figure out which one you want to get into.
Sure.
Any other questions regarding ticket 51648? Alrighty. Is this something that we would want to endorse and
I would say that it again should be sort of combined with the existing ticket on this subject,
okay?
which is the one that Ken pointed out beforehand, and could be part of the review as we go through that.
Alrighty. I think we can take care of that. Alrighty. I unfortunately am going to have to depart today's meeting, but I'm going to leave you in good hands with Ken, and I'm going to transfer the screen over to him, where I think David has one last, what do you call it, issue that he wanted to bring to the table. So let me give Ken the presenter's role.
Thanks, John.
You betcha. And let me see, I'll just
what's the issue number?
Yeah.
It is
38306.
833.
It's 38306. I hope I got that right.
Yep, there you go.
Community owners should develop. Okay. All right, I've got it, John. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, well, thanks, John. And so this was a ticket item that I had reviewed several weeks back, actually a couple months now it's been. And then I was looking at it again and got some clarification from the Sioux in Paducah, Pat Spoden, and he had some frustration about some of the way the communities are laid out, and had what he thought was possibly a good best practice. So this is not necessarily that he's proposing as a functionality change, but more of a kind of a tip or a best practice on when somebody sets up a new community or is working through designing a community, that they have some thought put into it rather than just rushing to just throw things out there, so that whoever might join that community would be able to easily search through it. It could coincide with maybe either the best practice of using the accordion style, or as he pointed out, the way the Central Region Sioux community page is set up, which allows for kind of an overview of the entire community with drop downs and kind of structured and organized that way. So I wasn't sure if this is something that we'd want to consider, or if this is anything that's worthy or not. I thought it was a good suggestion and a good best practice that community owners should probably adhere to, but I thought that would be something for us to look into, or the rest of the team can look into. That's really all I have on this particular item.
Is there, other than the Central Region Sioux, one thing that we can do, and what we plan on doing is, right now we have a site or a community template that we use when we establish a new community. And I've always thought that it would be better if we had several of those with guidance when someone requests a new community. You could ask them, well, what type of community are you looking to establish? And then perhaps, the template that we start from, would be a better starting point. And so if there's, the Central Region Sioux is a quite large community, so that could be used as guidance. But if we had a simplified template type community that could be used as a starting point, that always could help people out. So
I think that's a great idea, Ken. And in fact, I believe that probably would be my suggestion as well, is to develop some templates of some examples that are out there presently that would allow the new community user, or that possibly a new community owner, somebody that's trying to develop a community, they can then look at that and then just start plugging in and changing what they need to fit their community,
Right.
rather than going in and creating it from scratch. Now they've got a template to work off of, which allows for a little bit more consistency. So I absolutely suggest that as well.
Okay. The other thing that I know that's on the works, and it got put on the sideline because of DXP, but I envision it'll be starting back up again, is I know Steve had requested a community spotlight, where we have a community where owners and such can go out and look at best practices and use that. It wouldn't necessarily be a template for it, but it'd be able to see best practices in use, and that's something that we intend to do as well. So I think between the template and a best practices, that hopefully those would address this issue.
Yeah, I would agree. That sounds like a great idea as well. So I don't know how we want to proceed with this ticket here, if we want to table it back again, or if we just want to put it in a holding pattern again, or if we just wanted to resolve it and come up with another ticket perhaps, or just continue this discussion about the templates. I'm open to either of those.
Either way, or if it's ranked, and then when we implement those, we could use the templates and the spotlight as work that's associated with this. If it is endorsed and ranked, we could do that.
Okay. All right, that would definitely work for me. Is there any other comments on that proposal? All right. Well, then I guess we can move to the next item, which was the on John's agenda that he had put together, was the open forum section. I don't know, Ken, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I apologize. So I got sidetracked for a moment. So what was the question?
The next item on the agenda for today that John had was the open forum after the tickets here. So was there anything that you had that you'd like to add, or anybody else?
Nothing on my end. So.
All right. Well, we'll move this along. And I don't think we had any new action items or open action items.
The only thing I have written down is for myself, and that is I'll be here at the next meeting. But so I will provide a review of the remaining issues, as well as updates to those that I reviewed today for the VIT endorsed issues. So I'll take care of that.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that anybody wanted to raise up before we start the meeting for today? All right. Having heard nothing, then I guess we can, probably safe to assume that we can close out the meeting. And I appreciate everybody being able to make it again. I know it's over the summer leave, so it's difficult to always get everybody to attend the meeting. So I appreciate everybody's attendance for today. Next meeting we'll be in 2 weeks on July 10th. And hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day and has a good rest of the week. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.